Hello everyone, Sir Nintendo Lot here, and even though it's a little late, I would like to wish you a Happy New Year. If you've made a New Year's resolution this year, I hope you're keeping at it. When people make a New Year's resolution, it tends to be something like losing weight, saving more money, or spending more time with family. Generally, people focus on one thing they need to do better and try to tackle that. With this in mind, at the turn of the year, it got me thinking, what if video games could make New Year's resolutions? What is the one thing they would focus on improving? In this video, that's exactly what we're going to explore. What are the major improvements that Nintendo's major franchises could make? Well, keep watching and you'll hear my opinions. We're going to start with Mario since everything Nintendo related starts with Mario. His 3D games always bring something new to the table. Whether we're squirting around with FLUDD, jumping through galaxies, or possessing different creatures with Cappy. But the 2D games, the new Super Mario Bros. Series, doesn't really have all that much new to it. We see the same hazards and enemies pretty often. The levels don't provide memorable new twists. The games would be a whole lot more interesting with a wider variety of mechanics, such as new power-ups and bizarre environmental obstacles. I want every game and every level to have its own unique flavor. We all know that Metroid Prime 4 is on the way, eventually. So one thing I would like to see in it is a bit more guidance in terms of knowing where the heck you're supposed to go. I love how Metroid Fusion handled the franchise by giving players specific destinations to go to, but allowing them to decide how to get there and whether or not they want to explore other places while doing so. I would like to see the 3D Metroid games follow in its footsteps. The Splatoon series obviously thrives on online multiplayer, and one element of good matchmaking is that the game pits you against players who are roughly your skill level. Therefore, we're losing about 50% of our matches if the game's doing that successfully. In light of that, Splatoon games should make sure that loss isn't so devastating. Unfortunately, right now, losing in ranked matches is a miserable experience. Your rank meter slowly cracks, and then it shatters when you lose too much. This makes it particularly stressful to return to a ranked mode after you haven't played it in a long time. So, I make the modest proposal that Nintendo gives us the option to hide our own rank from ourselves. It would just be an option for those of us who tend to get pretty anxious about that sort of thing. It would allow me to have more fun with the game, whether I'm winning or losing. Listen, Wario, I know that brothers have trouble getting along sometimes. I don't know what's been going on between you and Waluigi, but you never take him gold hunting, and you never call him up to help you make video games. So, I was thinking maybe you could give each series a breath of fresh air by inviting your brother along. Nintendo loves co-op games right now, So maybe Waluigi's lanky nature could complement your big, hefty nature in a Wario Land game, where you two have to work together by complementing your strengths. Or at the very least, invite him to make some games with you in WarioWare. Everyone on the internet seems to have a strong opinion about what a perfect Fire Emblem game should look like, but for me, I think the games could use a major overhaul by putting less emphasis on luck and more on raw strategy. For example, too much of the games consist of hoping that the 15% chance you have of getting a critical hit goes through, so that the enemy won't be able to attack you back. Personally, I prefer the way that the Advance Wars games calculate damage, where the amount of damage is relatively predictable, but it might go up and down a little bit based on luck. Even if the developers don't want to completely embrace the Advance Wars formula, one that we haven't seen in a while, by the way, I would appreciate it if critical hits were toned down so that luck, good or bad, doesn't decide battles. Strategy does. I know if the Wii Fit series comes back, it will need a different name, but I do believe that there's a place for it, especially since Nintendo's still trying to cater to a wide variety of audiences. So what can the next fitness game do better? I think it would reach a wider audience if they upped the dancing exercises. In Wii Fit U, there are only a few dances like salsa and hip hop, but I think Nintendo could go much further than that by using a wide array of their classic tunes. Part of the reason why we like Smash Ultimate so much is that it has over 900 tracks to enjoy. So why not have a fitness game where one of the modes is the ability to dance to all these tunes? After all, the Just Dance series sells millions of copies with bad music. Imagine how much Nintendo could sell with good music. I've never played a Xenoblade game before, so you can completely ignore my opinion if you want. However, the reason I don't play these games is that they are so long. According to the internet, if you're going at a leisurely pace, it can take well over 80 hours to make it through one of these games. Let's be honest, some of that has to be filler. So, I make the humble request that they just stick to the fun rather than artificially lengthen the game with filler material. The mission structure of Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon really held it back, in my opinion. It could be stressful to go over 30 minutes without a checkpoint, and we often had to explore the same environments multiple times. So I would like the mission structure to be scrapped in favor of going with the original game's plan. Namely, let us explore however we want and give us plenty of checkpoints. I've always loved Kirby games, but one criticism you'll hear about them often is that they're too easy. Well, an easy way to fix that would be to allow players to play the hard mode right away, rather than require them to beat the entire game on the normal difficulty first. Back in 2015, Miyamoto claimed that Pikmin 4 was nearing completion, so hypothetically speaking, it should be right around the corner. In that game, I would really like to see less burden on the player to multitask. In Pikmin 3, you're given 3 different captains, and switching between all of them constantly can be very stressful. In particular, I didn't like the mission mode in that game because getting a good medal required you to have your head in a million different places as you ordered one captain this way, one captain the other, controlled this other captain, had Pikmin in one place. It was overwhelming. I think Pikmin 4 should scale it back down to 2 captains, which will still allow the strategy of toggling between different areas, but not overwhelm the player. Whether it's the Nintendo DS touchscreen or the Wii U gamepad, Nintendo seems to really enjoy forcing the Star Fox series into control schemes that just plain weren't meant for it. But for the next Star Fox game, I would like to see a straight up Star Fox game. No gimmicks attached. I've never played an Earthbound game before, but everybody knows that what we want is a localized Mother 3. Show the fans that you care, Nintendo. Most people agree that Kid Icarus Uprising's control scheme really held the game back. However, I think a sequel to it needs to do more than just fix the controls. Namely, in Kid Icarus Uprising, you spent way too much time just killing a bunch of enemies in a room so that you could wander on to the next one. I'd like to see more variety in the levels, namely by giving the player some more platforming sections to engage in. A better control scheme would allow players to navigate Pit through much more interesting levels. I liked F-Zero X and I loved F-Zero GX. So I want the next F-Zero game to exist. I'm well aware that Nintendo has said before that it's hesitant to bring F-Zero back because they're not really sure how they could expand on it. However, F-Zero is a very intense competitive game. That gives it a very important role in Nintendo's current lineup. You see, in terms of racing games, we have Mario Kart, which is considered more casual, since items give it a layer of luck. F-Zero, on the other hand, is all about skill, so it would complement the Mario Kart series well. After all, Nintendo really likes advertising games like Splatoon 2 and Mario Tennis Aces and Smash Ultimate as intense competitive experiences. So, why not have an intense competitive racing game? I love how recent Pokemon games have brought the little critters to life in modes like Refresh. I absolutely love petting Pokemon and feeding them and seeing their other mannerisms. It makes them feel like real breathing animals. However, you don't really see that in the battles where they're just standing still, and oftentimes you'll get icons like giant hands representing whatever it is the Pokemon's supposed to be doing. What I want to see is the battles come to life. If Snivy taunts somebody, I want it to look smug while it does it. If a timid Pokemon enters the battle, I want to see it be a little shy. If a brave Pokemon enters battle, I want it to look all confident and macho. Battles are an important part of Pokemon games, so the Pokemon should come to life in them as well. I really enjoyed the cute, relaxing platforming in Yoshi's Woolly World, so I don't have all that much to say here. But I would appreciate it if the secrets hidden throughout the levels were placed more intuitively. For instance, rather than have to hunt down random invisible clouds by rubbing against every wall in the room, perhaps the environment itself could give some clues. For instance, maybe a cracked wall could indicate that something's behind it if you throw an egg at it. This would make the exploration element of Yoshi games a lot more intuitive. The Animal Crossing series is supposed to be nice and relaxing. And usually it is. But what's not relaxing is how you need to play the game about every other day in order to make sure your townspeople don't leave, or that the town doesn't get overrun with weeds or other problems. I would greatly appreciate it if there weren't punishments for failing to play the game on a regular basis. After taking a long break from an Animal Crossing game, it's scary to go back and think about which villagers will be gone. I would appreciate it if I didn't have to feel any of that stress when returning to my town. I appreciate how Zelda Breath of the Wild breathed new life into the series. However, one thing about the game really irked me. After scaling a mighty mountain, watching that little green circle of yours to make sure it doesn't run out, you lift up a rock and a little fella gives you a piece of poop. That's your reward for exploring so much of the vast world. Great, now I'm 1/32 closer to expanding my inventory, which I don't really need to do. Also, part of the fun in previous Zelda games was finding great new weapons, but here you just get ones that break after a few minutes. To make exploration more fun and rewarding, I propose that they give us a variety of permanent rewards rather than just ones that we don't really need or that will go away very soon. And how can Donkey Kong improve? Rambi's great, but bringing back more of the animal buddies could allow for a wider variety of challenges. As I said back in the Mario section, I really love it when video games provide variety, the spice of life. Well, that's what I think. In the comments below, let me know what you think Nintendo franchises can do to improve themselves. I'm very interested in hearing what suggestions you come up with. And of course, I'd like to know what you thought of my opinions and of this video overall. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed yourself today, please hit that like button and share this video with your friends. Also, please consider subscribing for even more Nintendo goodness. Have a great day.